We're back with Thompson to Clark. We feel like we needed one more check-in before the year is
Yeah.
over. Brad Evans is here with me on New Year's Eve. Wow.
That's
2025, man.
that was a quick year.
Do they get quicker as we get older? Because it sure feels like it.
I think it depends on the age of the kids, right? Yeah, so if you've got kids, I've got 2 teenagers, you've got a couple of teenagers again, so you're going through that, and
I wonder if when the kids move out, if life goes back to moving slowly again. That I'm almost ready to figure that one out.
yeah, yeah, I'm very ready to
Well, our last couple of shows were, about the possibility of free agency and who Buster Posey is going to bring in, and we did get one in Willie Adames. The second one that was heavily rumored was Corbin Burnes. We got spurned by Burnes. He went to Arizona. Not the best play. Like it to me. First, no Dodgers. Like if no Dodgers, then I feel like we almost kind of won. But kind of below that is like, and if you kind of like us, no Padres and no Diamondbacks as well. But then he went to the Diamondbacks, so wasn't the worst case scenario for us. But it wasn't that far off either, because I think the Diamondbacks are going to be a really good baseball team.
Yeah, I think the tough thing with that, like you said, no Dodgers, no Diamondbacks, no Padres, is if he goes to any other team outside of our division except for us, then we kind of can still maybe climb that ladder. Climb that ladder, and it kind of looks like it just sticks us back in the 4th place standings again, man. So it's we need that bump up. We need those guys to bump us up. Willie Adames is great, but we need those guys to bump us up a little bit more.
Yes. So the other thing that's kind of I'm struggling with, and this is just reporting in our day and age today. One of the things that we like to do is we have our little Apple News. I'm also a big fan of The Athletic, but if Baggerly and Grant Brisbee haven't been writing much during this last couple of weeks, which is, hey, they're off vacation. Good. I'm glad that they're getting some rest. But in a time where we're looking for news and you're just kind of digging. So we go to Apple News and you open up the Giants, follow the Giants. So it's all Giant stuff. And you have the Chronicle, which is awesome because John Shea, Susan Slusser, they're really, really good. And I've been I just love reading Susan's work. She's just so on it. But next to them, it's almost like unfair to how good they are. It's like, oh, here's a random blog who aggregates a YouTube video that says the Giants could be in on Jack Flaherty. Like, how is that news? Like, how is that reporting? It's just, I guess it's content. When you tell me Apple News and then you put bloggers right next to the real journalists, it's kind of a little frustrating. But in reading Susan's reporting on the Corbin Burnes deal, not only were the Giants the highest bidder, like, she said that they didn't even really talk to him after the winter meetings. And like Buster and company had an offer to the agent like very early, and they didn't really move off of that offer. So where did all this talk about the Giants and the Blue Jays are 1 and 2 for Burnes, and they're going to go up to this? Like, where does all that stuff come from? Because I trust Susan more than I trust these fan-sided bloggers. No shade at these guys either. They're there to create content. They're doing their job in just a different way. But like, where does that story come from that the Giants are like top priority and that they can win this deal and blah, 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 blah. And then you look at it and it sounds like they weren't even really involved that much.
I feel like we've been doing this dance of misinformation for like 4 years now. And that was the tipping point for me. Like you said, hearing the Blue Jays, it's the Blue Jays and the Giants, and there's no mystery team. There wasn't even a mystery team talked about. There was the idea of a mystery team. So I think I'm personally to the point too. I'm with you. I read a lot of Susan Slusser stuff on the Chronicle
Yeah.
and the Athletic. Um, Bags and Grant, and I go to NBC Sports Bay Area,
Yeah.
Pavlovich's stuff.
Pavlovich.
Yeah, and all of that is great. Anything outside of that, I do not trust. I don't want to hear from John Heyman. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear from any of these guys. About Arson Judge and anybody else who might be coming to the Giants. I'm not in on those guys anymore. I just believe what I hear from Giants writers.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. I can't do the dance anymore. I'm getting media exhaust from it all.
Yeah. And look, there's the way that the national beat works is a little bit different from how the local beat works. I'm with you. I trust the local reporting a lot more because they have better relationships with
Sure.
the Giants decision makers. Doesn't mean that Bob Nightingale or John Heyman or the who's the ESPN's main guy, Jeff Passan. It doesn't mean that those guys
Right.
aren't necessarily good at their jobs, but I just trust the reporting more so with our local guys, and some of it is the fact that our local reporters, and again, I cannot say enough. Like, I'm a Bags guy first and foremost. I really like Pavlovich as well, but I think she had the best year out of anybody. She did such a great job with stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. I do trust the local reporting better, and we also just have good local reporters, which makes it even easier for us. I'm sure there are other markets where you don't have as good local reporting, so maybe you do lean a little bit more on the national folks. So Giants don't get Burnes. We're going to look at I have the MLB's top 25 free agent list from the beginning of free agency. We'll take a look at who is left and who might make some sense for the Giants. But the other person who at this point, I'm not going to believe anything. Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki is they're doing they did the tour. I guess he's back in Japan, and now they're trying to figure out stage 2 of this free agency period. Now, this is a little bit different because it's all based on the international bonus money, and if he wanted to wait a couple years, he could have done the same thing as Yoshinobu Yamamoto and really signed for huge money, but he wants to come to the big leagues now. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the type of sponsorships he could draw by just being in the US. He can kind of pick his destiny and maybe even be a bigger part of a team than going to a team that has Ohtani on it, where you're kind of playing by Ohtani's rules. So what do you think about what we've seen from this Roki Sasaki experience so far? The little information related to the Giants is just that people think that they were one of the teams that met with him.
Yeah, and it smells like Dodgers. Everything smells like Dodgers right now when it comes to Sasaki. But the one thing I keep taking from it, the small nugget that I keep taking from it, is that his agent keeps saying that Sasaki wants to be the best pitcher in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he wants to do. He wants to go to an organization that has the analytics, that has what it takes for him to be the best pitcher in the world. I've seen the international number. It's anywhere between the max that he could be given is between 7.1 million and 7.5 million. I think both the Giants and the Dodgers can't do more than 5.1 million each. It's so. Is it going to be about the money? Is it an extra $2 million going to get Sasaki? I don't think so. And the one thing I keep looking at is, if you look at the track record of Dodgers starting pitching over the last few years, how many of those pitchers have had Tommy John surgery? I mean, when you look at it, you're looking at Dustin May and Walker Buehler, and then Clayton Kershaw could not stay healthy. You're looking at Glass now is hurt. all of the starting pitching with the Los Angeles Dodgers has turned out to be hurt. A lot of injuries over the past few years. So if you want to go to Los Angeles and go with their analytics department and throw as hard as you possibly can every sixth or seventh day, then that's the place to go. But I think the Giants might have an edge there because they do, have a 5-man rotation. They like to have a 5-man rotation. They like to, control the game. And that was the other funny thing too, is the agent said that Sasaki requested no major leaguers in the first round of meetings in Los Angeles. Well, the Giants had a major leaguer in there. No current major leaguers, but the Giants had a major leaguer. They had a plant in Buster Posey. Buster Posey can tell you about the ballpark. He can tell you about how they deal with pitching in that ballpark. He's a former major league catcher who can talk to Sasaki and his agent about pitching at Oracle. So I think that was kind of a little bit of an edge for the Giants. Again, am I grasping at as many things as we can find? Yeah, maybe, because Sasaki is a mystery, and it sounds like the second round is going to be like 2 or 3 teams. And it's possibly going to be in-person meetings at the ballpark of those teams. So we should know hopefully soon-ish when that maybe in the next week or so when that second round is going to start taking place. But it sounds like he's going to be signing between January 15th and the 23rd. We're still quite a ways away from that.
And I also saw that they specifically said, yeah, if you have Japanese players on your team already or not that big of a deal to us. I don't know, right. They could be saying anything at this point just to kind of shoo the media away from asking questions. But this is one where it's almost like a new thing because of the way that it's being handled with such a highly sought out player who's kind of eschewing the big market by coming early, and this dance that teams have to go through. He's 25 years old. So what does it mean? Like, so these teams, how many years can you sign the guy to, like, right now? Because the big thing for him is to, like, obviously hit free agency, right? Like, can he? So, because when Ohtani came over, how many years did he have to stay with the Angels before he was able to hit free agency?
I believe it was 4. Now, with Sasaki, it has to be a minor league deal, and the team that signs him has to sign him to a minor league deal, and they have 6 years of control.
Okay, so
that's everything I've read. It's the same. It's
same deal
like
as everybody else.
If you were drafted. So, yeah.
And so, I mean, what they could do is what we've seen a lot of teams do with younger players, where you buy out the arbitration years and just pay them, a lot of money. Sure. So that could happen as well. But so he will not hit like free agency till his early 30s, and for a pitcher, that's a little riskier. So you look at the way that Yamamoto did it. He waits a couple years and then he gets paid huge, whether he is healthy or not. It's going to be important for Sasaki to be still a good pitcher by his age 31 season, which is definitely an interesting way to do this. So I think my hopes, I would say, are fairly low. When I read that the Giants were not the top bidder for Burnes, it just told you what we have been told, which is that they are going to have a lower payroll this year than they had last year. And that's just that's not necessarily how teams win in today's day and age. Is if your payroll goes backwards, it usually means you're going to lose. But look, the way that the Giants have done it the last 3 years, they've been 500 or under, and their payroll has increased. So it doesn't, that hasn't also shown success. So we'll have to wait and see on that one, but it would be a big deal if he decided to choose the Giants. I feel like my hopes are probably lower than they've ever been for free agency especially after they got their one. Because if you're Buster Posey, you go, look, we said we were going to get somebody, we got somebody, we didn't lie to you guys, and does Farhan do that Adames deal? Probably not. And the Giants are, the Giants are in on all of these different guys and probably finish second to most of them. So I wanted to look at the free agency list that I mentioned to you. Yeah. So Vinny Vlogs, thanks for checking in on the live stream. Said, did you guys see the Bleacher Report rank the Giants the 30th worst farm system in the league? Oh yeah, that was one of the things I sent Brad yesterday in text. It's like, did you see this? I wouldn't even know how to rank that, but Brad's response was, I'm going to wait for Keith Law to give us some information about
Bleacher
that.
Report is great. We like them, and we've done shows for Bleacher Report.
Yeah,
but I want to see what Keith Law has to say about our farm system, and that's rankings after those rankings from Bleacher Report happen, at this point in time after the trades have been made and different things. So I mean, the Giants could still pull off a couple trades here and there. What is that going to do? Make your farm team get worse? Because what players are we talking about? The Giants trading away? Yaz, Lamont, not a huge return in that way, but you can include those guys in deals, and we'll talk about it later, for major league talent on other teams with big contracts. Have the other team eat some of that big contract, and we'll send you back a Lamont Wade Jr. or Yaz or something like that. So, but yeah, we did see it, and I want to see what Keith Law has to say, because he's kind of the Bible when it comes to minor league system reports, right? I mean,
yeah, like when I think of Keith Law, I think of like really smart, like curmudgeon, like just like he's like the best history teacher at high school, but nobody liked him, but they still respect him. Like that's
exactly. Yeah. You glean something from him. You walk away and you go, that guy, and go, he's probably right.
By the way, I aged Sasaki 2 years. He's only 23. So by the end, he'll still be under 30 by the time he would theoretically get to free agency or whatever.
And in 6 years, when he gets to free agency, Freddie Freeman's going to be 41 and Mookie Betts will be 38. So keep that in mind, Sasaki. Well, we got a young cast in San Francisco.
Oh man! All right, so just going through the free agent list. So this is just from Mark Feinsand, who did this list for MLB.com. So obviously Soto was number 1, done. Corbin Burnes number 2, done. Sasaki's still out there. He had Sasaki as number 3 in his list. Blake Snell, 4, done. Alex Bregman still out there, 31 years old, third baseman. Giants have a third baseman. They could push him to second if they spread out some big money for him. This is one I don't really sense it. I know there've been like some wild scenarios where all of a sudden the Giants are interested in Bregman. Seems like a thing where, the agent would be like, oh yeah, he'll play second, just bid us up. So, he really wants to play third. So we just want you to bid up the other team to sign him to be a third baseman. What do you think about Bregman?
I don't want to reveal too much about Bregman because we've got a segment coming up a little bit later where we talk about our
wishes.
There's a little hint, but
there's a Bregman wish in there.
Yeah, so they did throw it out there at the beginning of free agency. He would be more than willing to move to second base. So, I mean, that's, like you said, that could be a ploy just to kind of move the needle a little bit. But I mean, that's
we are abused at this point. I just sense that all teams use us for these reasons, right? Isn't that how you feel?
Because we got the money, we got the money, and what are we well below, or we're pretty far below 200 million right now. So, the payroll, and what were we at, 240 something last year? So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to use the Giants and say, hey, the Giants haven't landed that big free agent, and they got deep pockets. So,
by the way, your background is so nice, and you're not even using a green screen.
I'm not. I'm using I should reveal to you, I'm using what's built into the iMac OS, the Mac OS. What are we on? 15? No, I don't even know what number.
S-
I'm still have a hard time remembering the names of the Mac
Yeah,
OS. Or it was Sequoia right now, I think.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, that's all I'm using is their built-in FaceTime camera background. Pretty simple.
Interesting.
Yeah, like
No, it
that.
looks great. Like I can't even tell. Like I'm looking on the edges of your shoulders to see if I can see anything that would even lead me to believe that, it looks great.
Little bit of tearing right there. You know what the worst is though when you hold up a bottle. Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh,
It's
there you go.
there you go. Now
Is
you
that
can see
Whistle Pig?
my room in the background. No, that's a little Wild
Oh, Wild
Turkey
Turkey, got it.
101 rye, and then this was a fantastic Christmas present right here. This is the Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve,
Mm.
120 proof. That'll take the paint off the walls if you need. But I had a slug of that the other night when I got it. Whoo, boy, it's a heated single barrel bourbon, man.
What does that say? Like gifts, liquor as gifts.
Yes.
Like it
Well,
basically it's like a dad gift, right? Like it's like
yeah,
you wouldn't give like a 21, maybe you would a 21-year-old who's just started drinking like it, but like a
sure.
25-year-old, unless the 25-year-old is like heavy into like, scotches or something, which
But they shouldn't be. They've only had 4 years to get into scotches at that point, right?
right,
So,
right.
legally.
But it's not a gift for a younger person. It's like
Right.
it's like if you Googled gifts for, men in their 40s and 50s, like alcohol probably is really high on that list.
Yeah, and also, you know, also records. I mean, that
Yeah,
was a big
yeah,
Christmas for me was records and bourbon and hats.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
simple stuff.
Yeah, you
The
can't go
simple
wrong
dude.
with that. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with that. Like I did get from Brian's significant other, Danielle. She's a delightful human being. Her
Nice.
parents are very nice as well, and she got me some Japanese whiskey, and then JJ got me a hat, so that fits two of your little scenarios there.
Nice. There you go.
Brian, uh, there was the Valkyries, so
Oh, right.
he bought a jersey for the Valkyries, and somehow they delivered him two. Like these are heavy duty, like really thick jerseys. I'm assuming it was like $100 that he
And
paid
this is
for
like a pro shop too.
it. Yeah, it's like I don't know the brand. Like the WNBA has allowed some of these different brands to create
Mm.
gear for them. So I don't know. I don't. It's like not one that you would go to WNBAstore.com and find. Like it's
Oh,
actually
okay.
pretty nifty. And they sent him two instead of the one, and he didn't get double charged. So he gave me one of those. He also got me a book, by the way. So yeah,
Oh, nice.
I got the Valkyries jersey that the next time he and I pod together, I'll throw that on. But yeah,
Nice.
cool. Christmas is fun, man.
Yeah.
But what you mentioned your records.
Mm.
If I don't have enough projects, if I can shoehorn one more project, it would be to catalog my vinyl, because I have so much old stuff that my dad just gave to me that I don't even know
Yeah.
really what it is. So I just want to catalog it and like put it on Discogs to use their like little.
It's the old stuff is hard to do. The new stuff is easy because you got a UPC label. You take the app, you scan the UPC label, it tells you exactly what it is. You add it into your group. The problem with the old stuff is you've got all you're going by are the runouts, which is where the needle ends and starts to go into the middle and it goes back and forth and back and
Mhm.
forth. In the runouts, you'll get numbers, you'll get etched things, you'll get symbols, you get all kinds of stuff. So you got to go into Discogs and type all of that stuff in,
Oh
and
man.
and then you got to go. Sometimes you'll get 4 for the same album. Then you got to start looking at pictures. Well, does my middle label, is it missing one of the symbols from the center and this and that? It's time consuming, but it is fun because then when you're searching through and you discover, oh my God, I have this record. Oh my God, it's going for $100. that's great. And then when you find one that goes for 25 cents, you're like, oh, well, that's nice. It is a lot of work, but it is a lot of fun for sure.
All right, we had a just side tangent there,
Yeah.
but let's get back to this free agent list. Obviously, Max Fried, he's the one who like reset this pitching market.
That was ridiculous
with his deal
for
with
a guy who's never won a Cy Young. That's the amazing part, man.
Anthony Santander, outfielder, age 30. Would probably be more of a DH type with the Giants. I haven't seen his name really related to the Giants in any way as a potential fit. What do you think about Santander?
I've seen a couple different places where somebody will throw it out there. Actually, I like the Chris Rose podcast, the baseball one that he does with Trevor Plouffe. They did kind of throw it out there, but then, Trevor Plouffe said, do you really want to see Santander play right field at Oracle Park?
No.
And nobody, I mean, that's a special position. You can't just stick somebody out there. And I'm going to talk about right field a little bit later on too. But Santander is a 44 home run guy last year. If the Giants wanted a solid DH who played at DH every day, that's kind of your guy. You're not going to stick him in the outfield, man. You're going to sign him and you're going to keep Yaz also, but how much is he going to, what's the prediction on how much he costs? That's kind of the question. So
the next person on this list is someone who all of a sudden is rumored for the Giants, thanks to the reporting of Susan Slusser, who just had like a one-liner at the end of her report on Corbin Burnes, Pete Alonso. Now, I was talking to Brad wouldn't know who this person is, but if anybody knows anything about pro wrestling, Anthony Bowens, who's a wrestler for AEW, All Elite Wrestling, he's a big Barry Bonds fan. He's a big Giants fan, and every once in a while, I'll reply to him. He doesn't know who he actually may know who I am, but he's like, it's not like we're friends or anything. One of my goals in 2025 is to get him on a podcast, but he said he had tweeted about Pete Alonso. This was before the Slusser report came out, and I was like, do you think that they would actually be able to give him enough years to what he's looking for? Because theoretically you'd say, well, we have Eldridge coming up. Do you really want to lock in Alonso for more than 2 or 3 years? And he had the idea, well, you can just put him as DH, or you could flip-flop him and Eldridge as DHs. You got the left-handed hitting DH and the right-handed hitting DH, and they can also play first base. So you have some flexibility there, and you actually have flexibility within the DH spot. And I was like, that is actually pretty interesting. But again, as the beaten baseball child that I am, I feel like this is another one where he's like, yeah, Mets, we're talking to the Giants, add another year and add another opt-out in the one that I want, and we got business. Because like the Mets can offer him the moon. The Giants are not going to compete dollars-wise with the Mets. So it's really just a matter of, them coming to some sort of agreement. But if the Mets are like, dude, you're, all of the main analytics that we look at, all they're doing is just going down, 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 down. We don't think you're worth that. We're going to go chase Vladdy Guerrero Jr. During the season, and he's going to be if they do that, then maybe Alonso could fall. But again, I just feel like we're getting played with here. But I don't think Slusser would have reported it if it wasn't real. So it's obviously real. What do you think about Alonso?
Alonso would be interesting. Again, like you said, you get a DH, you get a guy who can play first base this season, and then switch over to DH. You got Bryce Eldridge waiting in the wings. So that's always one of those ones that just kind of goes back and forth. You see the reports and then you go, but how much? I mean, if the Giants really legitimately think highly, and a lot of people do think highly of Bryce Eldridge, it's just not just the Giants. there are a lot of reports out there that think very highly of Bryce Eldridge. So if that's the case, do you lock up a Pete Alonso for 5, 6, 7 years if he wants a really long deal? And it's a tough one too, because do you put that much into a right-handed bat, at Oracle Park? So I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Obviously, I would not be sad if we signed him. His numbers were down a little bit this past season. I don't know if that's going to help keep the price down, but you know who he can be and who he is. It would do wonders to our lineup. There's your 4-hole hitter. Adames 5, Chapman 6. Bryce Eldridge comes up, he's 3, or Bob Melvin talked about Jung-Hoo Lee possibly batting 3rd, which makes a lot of sense because he's a contact guy. He makes a lot of contact. Because that's it. We always forget about this. We are getting basically 2 free agents along with Willy Adames. We're getting Robbie Ray, who I think just changed his number 2 days ago. He went from 23, now he's number 38. Alex Cobb had that number, and so
and I heard he also went a little 1 extra on the inseam, so pants are even going to be tighter.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, 38 is not. Yeah, that's not the size of his pants. and Jung-Hoo Lee. I mean, that's kind of another free agent that we're getting, because we only got a couple of months of him last year, and we only got a couple of months of Robbie Ray. So those are 2 guys that the Giants are banking heavily on. So yeah, it would absolutely lengthen the lineup, which would be really cool. I still want to see more defense and pitching in free agency, but spend that kind of money on a guy like Alonso, you kind of almost say, okay, at that point, I think the Giants would be completely done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could add pitching, but it would have to be reclamation projects, or you go and trade, which they certainly could do. So.
All right, let's just finish off this list here. We won't go through all the 25, but Willy Adames was 9 Giants. So we got at least his number 9. Still out there, his number 10 is Jack Flaherty, and I've started to hear some Flaherty to the Giants stuff, and it makes a little bit of sense to some extent because of the Giants missing out on Corbin Burnes. Now, Buster hasn't given us a priority list or anything. And, right. I think he believes that they have really good starting pitching and they have great options with other, with younger talent coming up, and someone like Jordan Hicks, who, they still want to start. So we'll see. I don't think Flaherty's a must have. I think Flaherty would be a nice to have, but not a must have. It's just something that you have been talking about all, since we've been doing this podcast, which is the idea that it's not, you can't really just have 5 starting pitchers. You got to have like 8 or 9, just because people are going to get hurt and you need to fill out the back end when they do get hurt. So he would be one of those guys probably.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, there's a whole list of starting pitchers out there that the Giants could grab, minor league deals, work them out in spring training. I mean, there's going to be so much movement. That's why, free agency is always exciting, but there's nothing more exciting than spring training starting and seeing who you've got and who in the minors is ready to come up and make some noise as well. So, but I'll have more on Jack Flaherty later.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And then guys like Kim, who we've talked about all season long, the Giants got Adames, so Kim probably doesn't fit. And yeah, that's about it. Lots of these guys, on this list have been picked up. Gleyber Torres, second baseman, has not been quite the prospect that I think the Yankees thought when he was coming up, but he's still out there. And yeah, the one that I secretly wanted was 23 on his list, which was Sean Manaea, just because I was like, man, this guy just really did bump up his stuff. He used the Giants as kind of like the tryout year, because he improved the velocity and everything, and then and then he bounced and got a big deal. Good for him. But he was one I secretly wanted. And then you have someone like Max Scherzer, who is 40 years old, and it'd be a 1-year deal, and you'd probably he probably wouldn't even start pitching until May or whatever, because you want to stretch it. And that's one where I think if you believe you are a possible playoff team and you may need an extra arm, you kind of bank him, but I don't think the Giants are in that spot.
Yeah, I don't think so. And these are things that the Giants could use for Sasaki as well. I mean, look what they did to Gosman. Look what they, did to Minea and all that, Carlos Rodon came over, had a fantastic season. So, to go to Sasaki and say, look at all of these projects, these guys we brought in, and we bumped up their value and bumped up their their skill set, and I think they can use that. I don't think the Dodgers can say that. I mean, how many guys went there? They broke Max Scherzer, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
traded and then they broke him.
The thing that stuck with me in this some of the shows that we did this year is when I talked to my guy Jared from baseball, from Prospectus, and he was saying that he talked to I don't remember the pitcher. I don't even know if he told me who the pitcher was. It basically, a pitcher told him, I could ruin my shoulder and throw in the high 90s and actually make some money, or I can throw in the low to mid 90s and never make the big leagues. And so that is the risk, the balance there for these guys, and why I'm assuming why a lot of these guys get hurt. And I think that may be something to what you're talking about the Dodgers, is like, yeah, you can throw, if you throw 99, you're going to make the big leagues. You may get hurt. You're probably going to get hurt, but within that time frame, are you able to sign a contract and, actually make a career out of this? Or are you going to throw 93 and kind of be a 4A guy with us? And they probably wouldn't even mess with guys who choose to go that route, right?
Yeah, true. Not nowadays. I mean, back in the day, sure, but nowadays you gotta. I mean, Sasaki throws 102.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
got guys throwing lights out.
In this contract that you're signing him to. There's a year and a half that you're probably just writing off for arm injuries.
Yeah, that and also I think the ramp up years too. Come over to the major leagues in America, and he's used to throwing every 6th day. And like I talked about earlier, the Giants like a 5-man rotation, but I think if they had Sasaki, because he basically said he wants to try and make the team. He doesn't want to be. His agent said he doesn't want to be promised a major league spot. He doesn't want to be promised a 26-man spot. He wants to be signed to a minor league deal and make it out of spring training on his own skill set. So I think that's pretty interesting. But
look, when you throw 102, you can actually say that.
Yeah. I think he's going to be all right. I think pretty much any team he signs with, he's going to be on the 26-man roster at the beginning of the season. That'll start his clock too, because again, that starts the money clock as well. All of a sudden, your arb years come up sooner and everything else. But that's a cheap arm for 6 years, man.
Oh yeah.
Compared to the deals that are out there now. I mean, you're looking at, pitchers are getting $25 million a year right now. So
this is also why it makes so much sense for the Dodgers, because they just want to defer everything anyways. And this is a way of deferring. Like you don't have to pay this guy right out of the gate. So that's why it just fits their model so much. And
absolutely.
How can the Giants get into that?
Don't get your hopes up, man. Don't get your hopes up.
All right.
I'm here to tamp you down a little bit.
I know. Okay. We have our New Year's wishes. Now I asked Brad to have a wish for some player offensively, or defensively, but a positional player, a wish for a pitcher of some sort, and then a wish for the front office aka Buster Posey. So do you want to kick it off, and which one do you want to start with? What is your New Year's wish?
Yeah, my New Year's wish, I'm going to start with position player. We talked about this guy. I cheated, man. I had 2 for position players. But, it's okay. The second one is just kind of like, hey, I think this could happen. But I think it's kind of be either one of these guys. So Alex Bregman, we did talk about him earlier. He's only worth a 5th rounder, which is nice because with Corbin Burnes, it would have been 2 high draft picks, right? 2nd and 4th, I think it was. Alex Bregman, you sign him to a deal that the estimates out there are 7 years, 189. I mean, that's a chunk of change, right? That's also probably going to kind of end our offseason, other than picking up some bit players here and there. But I like Alex Bregman. And again, we talked about the fact that his agent said at the beginning of free agency, he was willing to play second base. So now you've got Chapman, Gold Glove. You've got Willy Adames, off year defensively. Buster Posey said they expect him to turn that back around. Buster Posey said, I've had bad defensive seasons, in the terms of metrics, but he goes and then it just happens. And the next year you have a great defensive season again. So then you got Willy Adames. Then you got a Gold Glove third baseman playing second base in Alex Bregman, who just won the Gold Glove this year. So now you have a really tight, fantastic infield. And then at first base, again, you could have Cal Eldridge, Bryce Eldridge, Cal Eldridge, the Brewers in the like early 90s.
Absolutely.
Bryce Eldridge at first base, along with Lamont Wade Jr. They can kind of work things out over there, a little bit of platoon action. I like that. I would love to see a Bregman signing. That's my wish. If not, I'm all for a Hae-Sung Kim signing.
Oh, interesting. To push him to second base?
Yeah, push him to second base. You're not going to lose a pick by signing him. And his estimate is a 2-year, $36 million deal. I think everything we've seen is he may not be playing until July, but that's fine because you've got
Fitzgerald.
You've got Fitzgerald at second. And then when Hae-Sung Kim is ready and comes and plays second base, he doesn't have to make that long throw either, which is also kind of nice. Save his arm a little bit. That's what he's having problems with right now. Then you push Tyler Fitzgerald to the outfield. Now you've got a platoon in right field. And again, you can't just stick anybody in right field, but Tyler Fitzgerald is a great defensive outfielder. So you stick him out in right field along with Yaz to platoon out there. You got a righty lefty. So now you've just, pretty much deepened your outfield at that point as well. So that's my wish, kind of shore up second base a little bit. I like Tyler Fitzgerald there, but I think the Giants are a much stronger team with either Hae-Sung Kim or Alex Bregman at second base. I go Bregman 1, Hae-Sung Kim 2.
Oh, I like it. I like that. Okay, my wish is for a player currently on their team. We talked this guy up all last offseason. Jung-Hoo Lee. We can't wait to see this dude play.
Yeah, man.
And then we were robbed when he crashed into the center field wall and jacked up his shoulder and had to miss the rest of the season. My wish for him is a full season without injuries, because I want to see what he can do from setting the table to the type of just the type. I have this feeling that if he is a good player, the fans are just going to be crazy for him. Handsome dude, like slick dude, like that's part of it, right? Charisma is part of it. Is part of being a baseball star. And
especially if you're on a team that isn't the Dodgers, that isn't the Yankees. If you're trying to get fans in the stands, but you're not a 100-win team, you've got to have guys that draw people, guys that people can root for, and that's Jung-Hoo Lee.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my wish for him, is just no injuries, full season, 550 at bats, and let's rock and roll with Jung-Hoo Lee. All right, what about the pitching side?
So the pitching side, and I stuck with the theme of addition in my New Year's wish, And so we talked about him earlier. Jack Flaherty, I think, would be a great, number 3 guy. So you could go Webb, Ray, Flaherty. And then you've got Kyle Harrison. And Kyle Harrison could be your 3 guy. Flaherty could be your 4 guy.
Yeah.
With Jack Flaherty, what I like about him is that I'll pull up his numbers here. I don't want to get any numbers wrong. We don't do wrong numbers here. His ERA plus in 2024 combined with 2 different teams, because he was with the Tigers and the Dodgers, it was 127. Before that, it was below 100. He was with the Cardinals. He was with Baltimore. But he found something in Detroit, and he was a gamer in the playoffs for the Dodgers. And I think the Giants could use, obviously, somebody else on the rotation with postseason experience. Somebody that if the Giants can get into a short series, a 3 of 5, they've got that experience in a Flaherty. They've got that experience in Logan Webb, who's seen it. Robbie Ray has seen some playoff experience as well. So now you've added that veteran in your starting rotation. Cost wise, let me see where he was. I like to use the Athletics list. He's listed at number 10. The projection for him is 4 at 92.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's doable for the Giants, especially if you're looking to add that pitching depth, because they have so many young.
31, I think.
He is 29.
29.
So 4 years, 29 years old. I mean, I think he may be wanting 5 or 6. I mean, at this point, and the Giants may have to give him.
I mean, we'll see what the market suggests, because a lot of these non Corbin Burnes, Blake Snell guys have been getting shorter deals. Like
right,
Waka got 3. I think even I know Shane Bieber's coming off of injury, but he only had signed a 1-year deal. Eovaldi signed a 3-year deal. He is a little bit older, so yeah, I mean, his age works for him. But we'll see what happens when it comes to where the market is post these crazy, insane deals.
Would you be fine with a 1 and done with Flaherty? Are you okay? What is your feeling on the 1 and dones at this point?
I don't like them for the reason that we've basically been talking about for the last 3 years, which is you can't buy the guy's jersey because you don't know if he's going to stick around, which is part of fandom, right? Which is part of how you grow your fan base. There are certain guys who are good enough who you would do it for if you have that missing piece. I don't know. Like, if you tell me we have Flaherty for 1 year, or we can try and figure out some of the young right-handers that the Giants have, Wisenhunt and who's the young kid, Hayden Birdsong. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather go with the young kids and figure what those guys have. Now, if you're saying, well, the Giants are a 92-win team, and you add Flaherty, and now you become elite for 1 year. Yeah, totally. With this team that they've built now, I'd rather figure out what they got in the young arms, and because I think this is Buster's going to get a year. The fans are going to give him a year or 2. I think by year 2, if there's no movement, then there may be some frustration, but because he is Buster, he's going to get this cushion year to figure things out. And if I were him, I would utilize it. You do want to compete for the wild card. They have to sell out that ballpark. Giants fans right now are in this mode of like, do I really want to go to the game, or am I going to sit in front of my 80-inch 4K TV and just watch the game on television? Like, that's really what you're doing, right? You're kind of competing against everyone's living room these days. So I think he's got 1 year. I think the Giants should utilize the hell out of him, though, in the marketing. Like, if you're going to utilize Jung-Hoo Lee and Willy Adames, like, right next to them should be the face of Buster Posey. They gotta get those good vibes back with this team, and I think he's the guy to do it. So I I would resist, but if Flaherty wants to come for 3 or 4 years, I would not be opposed to it because you have a quality rotation. And if we're kind of trying to go back to this idea of, we'll use an opener here and there, but really we want to have some 5 guys to be able to throw and to be dependable and who we can say, hey, every day we're going to be able to compete because of pitching and defense, which is what Buster said.
Mm-hmm.
I think locking in someone like Flaherty as your 3 or 4 would be a good thing. But I don't if he wants 6. I'm not quite sure he's that guy, especially because he kind of wore down at the end of the season. Though he did pitch on a World Series winning pitching staff at the same time. But yeah, so that's just my thought. All right, for me, no, actually, go ahead. You can follow up.
Oh, no, I was just going to say with Jack Flaherty, I think you also have to say he's an ex-Dodger, half a season World Series champion. He's an ex-Dodger, so you can't do a one and done with him because you're not going to win over the fans as an ex-Dodger who's only one season. People are not going to go for that. I think you're going to need a 4 or 5 year deal with Jack Flaherty. So,
yeah. Okay, mine is for Kyle Harrison for the same reason that you just kind of said, we didn't really get a whole season at Jung Hoo, so he's almost like a free agent. Same with Robbie Ray. The Kyle Harrison experience last year was incomplete, I think.
Right. The injury.
Injury, the way that they really babied him early on. He's not... I don't know if I see him as a guy who just needs experience and then he's going to turn into a frontline starter. I actually kind of wonder a little bit more if the way that he pitches, you're going to have to make a decision on who you believe he is, because we saw so many starts last year where by the 3rd inning, he's missing wide and he's trying to not throw strikes because he's worried about the type of contact coming off of his bat. I think his value obviously is as a starting pitcher because of his stuff, but because of his velocity at the same time, it reminds me a little bit of post 2013 Lincecum in a way, or post 2012, I guess, in that the stuff is there, but also if the fastball is a little straighter, that thing goes a mile into the seats, and there's a little bit of a worry. So I think Harrison is young enough to figure some things out, but I do wonder if you're the Giants, you have to figure out who this guy is, and I think this is a show it year for Kyle. Like, we gave him last year to be like, yeah, he's a young kid, he's going to be in the big leagues. I think he needs to make a drastic improvement, and I'm hopeful that he does. I think he's a little smarter. He's got some good savvy vets on his team. He's got Robbie Ray that he can watch, and watch how Robbie, though they pitch a little bit differently. But there are things he can pick up, and I want to see some improvement by Kyle this year, whether it's stretching out his arm, going into the 6th inning a little bit more, or it's just, being able to showcase a lot more of that swing and miss stuff. So setting up the batters a little bit better. You got Patrick Bailey for another year. You got Buster, who can, give some great advice on that stuff as well. So for me, my wish for Kyle Harrison is, this is your show it year. Let's show the fans what you really have. And then if we have a similar year to his rookie year, the Giants are going to have to make a decision on what to do, whether or not he, you move him to the bullpen and he's all of a sudden like a lights out closer or something. I don't think that is going to happen, because I think with his
left-handed setup man, possibly,
but with his stuff, he's probably going to have a lot more rope to show that he can't do it than other guys. But if we're relying on this guy, we've already lost most of his trade value just by having him pitch last year. Teams are like, oh, he only throws 92. We thought he threw 96, that kind of thing. So I want to see Kyle show his stuff in 2025.
Yeah, I think he definitely needs one sub 4 ERA season for us to have that promise. Because what was he, 4, 5, 6 last year? And if he has another season like this year where he's 4.25, we're gonna sit there and
he
go,
fell
okay,
off like
right?
as young pitchers do at the same time. So
Yeah, exactly.
all right, what about for our front office here?
All right, this one was fun. I went with Buster. I wish you would trade for players with control. 'Cause we didn't do that a whole lot. We would get guys off the scrap pile, right?
Yeah.
With lots of control. But I just grabbed two guys. I just threw them out there. Yandy Diaz. Okay,
Mhm.
we talked about first base. We need a first baseman. Yandy Diaz, 33 years old. He's a 288 lifetime hitter. Not a ton of power, but he gets on base, which the Giants like. And he can play a good first base. So, and he's 33 years old. He has 2 years of control. 10
Oh, wow.
million this year, 12 million in 2026. And he's a right-handed first baseman. So now you trade for him, and then you could have your platoon with him and Lamont Wade Jr. Another guy that I think the Giants could possibly trade for if they can get the Cardinals to eat a chunk of cash, but that's Sonny Gray, 35 years old. He's a 200 plus strikeout guy. 25 million this year, 35 million
Woo.
in 2026, and a club option for 30 in 2027. But again, if you can get the Cardinals to eat 10 million the first year, 12, 13 million the second year, and you can send back a prospect or two, then you've got another arm in the arsenal that could throw hard and get you 200 plus strikeouts. And he had that lights out season 2 years ago in Minnesota. He had a sub-2 ERA. Or not sub-2. It was probably around like 2.2, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
But a guy like that, I think, is good to add. You've got some control. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, they did that with Robbie Ray. And took a chance on him. And we saw when Robbie Ray was on last year, that was great. But again, coming off of the Tommy John, now we get to see a full season of Robbie Ray, which is kind of exciting. So you add Robbie Ray, Sonny Gray, you got Ray Gray. Look at that. Hey, you got two guys that so you got Ray Gray, you got Webb. Can you sign Flaherty at that point if you can get the Cardinals to eat a lot of the money from that Gray contract? You can add a Flaherty, and now you don't have to worry too much about Kyle Harrison because he's your 5 guy at that point. So if he does have an ERA close to 4, you can say, well, he's our 5 guy. It's all right. We'll let him. He can continue to grow, and then that way, when Robbie Ray is gone, if Kyle Harrison has grown enough, you plug him in, and then you got a pretty nasty pitching staff. So that's my wish. I want Buster to go out there and get some guys with control.
They might have to be eating a lot of money because they still got Arenado as well that they're trying to trade.
Well, and they could probably get rid of him too, I'm sure.
Yeah, the
I think
the declining slugging percentage of Nolan Arenado.
Yeah. But I think the word out there is they're kind of waiting to see where Bregman goes before they start really kind of shopping around.
That's probably best. Like,
yeah.
If you expect Matt Chapman out of Arenado, you're a little closer to what you want rather than like a Bregman. Like the reason why Matt Chapman is great is because like what you're going to get. He's not going to hit 50 bombs, but he's also not going to hit 10, and his slugging percentage is going to go, down the tubes. If you can sell yourself on Arenado can still play defense, and he may not hit 30 jacks, he may hit 15. Then you're probably your expectations are a little bit lower. My wish for Buster, I didn't even get as detailed as you. It was simply to make a trade. Now, we're talking about Giants fan base. We're talking about excitement. We're talking about how do you reestablish the franchise in the eyes of the Bay Area? Look, 49ers down season. The Warriors, Steph Curry just went on a post-game press conference and said, we are 16-16. We are average. Those fan bases in the eyes of the Bay Area are still a little higher, but with the fact that they're both struggling, there's an opportunity for the Giants to get some more eyeballs, to them this year. They're not in the shadows of the Warriors necessarily right now because of how great the Warriors have been, since 2015. And the 49ers too. Like 49ers, they haven't won the Super Bowl, but they've been in, NFC conference championship games and Super Bowls. And both teams are just there this year. So for the Giants,
Right.
they can kind of take back the market a little bit from their brothers. And I think if you make a trade, it doesn't even have to be, we were kind of joking about Vladdy Guerrero. Like Vladdy Guerrero, it looks like Toronto kind of ruined the relationship a little bit with him by lowballing him, at least according to him. He's unless Toronto comes out of the gate and they're competing with, the Yankees and everybody, they're and the Orioles, they're probably going to have to trade him because they're not going to want to pay him what his market suggests that he's worth. You don't have to trade for Vladdy Guerrero, but you can make smart trades for players, like you said, who still have some time left on their deal, because the whole key to this thing, if we can't get free agents, then you trade for players and you show them, like we did with Hunter Pence back in the early 2010s, right? You trade for Hunter Pence, and then all of a sudden Hunter Pence falls in love with the Bay Area and he wants to stick around, and you got a guy, for more years than just what his deal was. And I think that's got to be the key to their playbook is trading for guys and then showing them the way, showing them how they can become a part of a big league clubhouse and a part of the franchise, and show them how Will Clark can come back to the Bay Area and just get showered with praise. Even though he probably upset a lot of people by saying that Zaidi's like creating the lineup and, and making Bob Melvin and all whatever
Just throwing some stuff out there.
Yeah, just throwing that stuff out there. Will Clark is still beloved. Buster Posey, beloved. Barry Bonds, like way more beloved here than anywhere else because he's our guy. Maybe not Jeff Kent. I don't know if people would give Jeff Kent that same love, but that's also him because he went to the Dodgers.
He wasn't necessarily a personality. I think if you come back to the Bay Area as a former Giant, it's usually because you had some sort of personality.
Yeah.
I think Andres Torres is more loved than I think Jeff Kent is.
Him and Robbie Ray wear the same size pants on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So that's what I want. I don't know who that player is. They have some pieces in the farm system that they have to make some decisions on. Luciano, we've been talking about him forever. He's probably lost, half of his trade value at this point, but you need to be progressive, I think, and aggressive, because there's an opportunity that if you're not, I think the Bay Area fans are going to give the Giants an opportunity to win them back, win some of them back by showing that you're putting your money where your mouth is. And I think that was kind of the antithesis of the Zaidi regime, which is he didn't promise anything except that they were going to be in competition for players. And often when you fall short and you come in second, or you sign these guys to deals strictly based on their leverage rather than your leverage, like the fans are like, what are we actually getting out of this? You promised just by being who you are, the farm system being better than it was. And now you see the Bleacher Report thing where it's actually worse off than when he got here, according to some. But Buster has the opportunity to kind of say something and then put some oomph behind it, and the fan base will get behind him because they believe in him. And I think they're going to need to make some trades to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I threw that on there. I think it's super important. I mean, you're just not getting those big free agents. You got Willie Adames, but you're not getting the big names. So you've got to build that farm system. You got to go out and get those guys. And it's probably too early to be able to do that, because if Bleacher Report has given us number 30. Who do we have to trade away? Not the guys that we want to bring up, not Eldridge, not Wisenhunt, not these guys that we're kind of banking on right now. So
yeah, totally. And who knows? They have a decently high draft pick this year, even though they kind of got jacked in the lottery. So
the lottery.
We'll hear a lot more about Zach Manassian and what he's bringing to value, and because they are in a position where now drafting is a bigger part of this, and cultivating your young players is a bigger part of this. And if you can trade I don't think the Giants fans maybe when Zaidi got here, they were probably a little risk averse to trading the youngsters, because they're like, oh, here's a guy who's going to develop them and we're going to build out this farm system. But now, for what we've seen, I'm sure the fan base is more like, let's trade them before we figure out that they're not as good as we think that they are, and let's bring in somebody who's already proven, and like what you said, who's got time left. And I think that's the way to get it done. Easier said than done, though, because if you're not the Yankees, or you're not the Dodgers, or some of these teams, the Mets, who are going to win out these free agent deals, the rest of the league, the rest of the 20 some odd teams, they're probably thinking the same thing, the same way as us.
Yeah. And call Tampa Bay. They're always looking to get rid of somebody. So they don't want to pay anybody.
Yeah, but you may lose that deal, though, eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So that is it. Last show of the year for us. We will sort of figure out our schedule with this show in the upcoming weeks. If it lays dormant like it's been laying dormant, we may take some more weeks off. But we are getting close to spring training, and when spring training is here, we are generally back weekly. So last night had We Want Winners. Niners lost another one to the Lions. Brock Purdy got hurt. Sounds like he's not hurt too bad, so that's good. And then for the death lineup, Brian and I have not decided if we're going to be back this week or not. It's based on his schedule, but the Warriors are in dire straits, so that's going to be an interesting one. But all right, for Brad, I am Double G. Thanks to everyone for being with us in 2024. Here's to 2025. Peace out.
Peace.